So the following is a chapter from a book called Southern Lady Code Essays by Helen Ellis. I do not own the rights to any of the content I'm about to read. I just wanted to share it with you guys because I thought it was pretty funny. And the chapter is called A Room of One's Own That's Full of Gay Men. When my friend Carmine asked if I'd like to be the sole lady at his bachelor party, my exact words were, "Sweet God in heaven above, yes." I've been waiting 20 years in Manhattan to receive an invitation like this. And at 42, I'd finally gotten it. Carmine and his longtime beau, Bernard, were engaged, and I couldn't wait to help celebrate. Some girls dream of moving to New York City to be a big star, but my dream was to be the only woman in a room of gay men. Growing up in Alabama, there were no gay men. In my high school graduating class of 1988, certain boys were shy, or respectful, artistic, or sensitive. Some kept to themselves. This was all Southern lady code for something, but at the time, we girls weren't exactly sure what. We thought of these boys like brothers or backup plans. I personally had secret alliances with a few. If we weren't married by the age of 30, we'd marry each other. I married at 31. All of my backup plans married women and had kids straight out of college. Plan A had been to save myself for Michael Jackson, George Michael, or Boy George. Because these men were different. 2 out of 3 had dated Brooke Shields, so they were obviously marriage material. Would I like to wake up every morning to the dulcet tones of an angel or shop for Dayglow shorty shorts? I most certainly would. Did I have a poster of Culture Club over my bed because I thought the lead singer with his Karma Chameleon braids was the man for me? I most certainly did. I copied his kabuki makeup. I thought, when we go on our honeymoon, we'll share a caboodle. The cliche Southern man is a gun-toting, tobacco-chewing redneck who rides a tractor like an inflatable pool toy and slurs racism like Carol Channing slurred her way through Hello Dolly. But my favorite kind of Southern cliche is a fabric book-carrying, mint julep-sipping mama's boy who knows all the words to Julia Sugarbaker's The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia rant and doesn't need to be asked to give you his opinion on anything. Especially Patsy Cline or personalized note cards. Growing up, I did not think of this kind of man as homosexual. I thought of him as Southern effeminate. Southern effeminate men are eccentric. They wear seersucker and bow ties. They garden and read and paint miniatures. They antique. They collect salt shakers and cookie jars, linens and art. They see their mothers every Sunday. They escort rich widows to cultural events. They help their women friends wax their legs and lip-sync Love is Strange by Mickey and Sylvia in a talent show like Anthony Bouvier did on Designing Women. Now, when I meet a man who carries a dog like a monocle and has an accent as peppery as white gravy, I think, is he gay or Southern effeminate? Grandpapa was such a man. He was funny. He buttered onions. He owned and played a piano. He dressed well. He had an umbrella stand of polished walking sticks. He let his daughter, my mama, raise 45 cats in their backyard. When I earned top academic honors in college, he speed needle pointed a 90-inch rug runner to the soundtrack of Oklahoma that read, "Laude, laude, my grandchild is summa cum laude." When I slept on an egg crate mattress pad on the floor of my first Manhattan apartment for 8 months, he bought me a twin bed and box spring. Every year for my birthday, he sent me the amount of money of the age that I was. So the year he gave me the bed, he also gave me $22. Grandpapa and I got on fine because I wrote my thank you notes. Not everyone wrote their thank you notes. And if you didn't write your thank you notes, he cut you off. My sister never got more than $13. And to really teach her a lesson, over the following years, Grandpapa sent her cash-enclosed birthday cards that were empty. Grandpapa had a dark side. A shady side is more like it. Have a nice day, sir, someone would say. And Grandpapa, with a sing-song voice that sounded like coochie 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 coo, would say, I'll have any kind of goddamn day I goddamn want to. Grandpapa never ate at a restaurant without sending food back. He gossiped. He carried grudges like handkerchiefs. He dropped the N-word like marbles from a busted bag of marbles. And then there was the man who I'll call Norman. After Grandpapa's wife, my grandmama, died when I was an infant, and then Grandpapa's next door neighbor, his mama, died when I was a kid, and then two spinster sisters drove their car through the side of his house, he moved from Yazoo City, Mississippi to Cincinnati and moved in with Norman. As far back as I can remember, Norman was always in our Kodak pictures. He was younger than Grandpapa, closer to my parents' age, but I always thought of him and Grandpapa as a matching set. Grandpapa and Norman came to our school events and on the vacations. Grandpapa and Norman traveled for free on cruise ships because they agreed to dance with all the single octogenarian ladies. Norman was never called Uncle Norman. He was just Norman. They were roommates. They were friends. They hosted family holidays. And while we stayed in their home, and when we stayed in their home, Grandpapa and Norman stayed at a hotel. Grandpapa died when I was 24. As Papa drove my sister, Mama, and me to the graveyard, Mama reviewed Grandpapa's eulogy, which he'd handwritten himself, underlining certain words for emphasis, but then stopped, looked up, turned to my father and asked, Mike, do you think Papa was gay? Yes, he said. And that is all I've ever heard spoken about it. It was also the last time we spoke to Norman, who immediately moved to Florida and moved in with another man. So why did and do Southern men keep their homosexuality a secret? I'm sure there are a lot of reasons. Religion is a big one. To a lot of us, the threat of eternal damnation is more real than ozone depletion. Jerry Lee Lewis could marry his 13-year-old first cousin once removed, but if he'd gone to bed with the chantilly lace and a pretty face of another man, he'd have gone to hell. He might as well have started weaving a handbasket, but cane and wicker crafts could make you a target. When I was a teenager, certain Southern boys got jumped in parking lots. And again, not because they were gay as in homosexual, but because they were Southern effeminate, quiet or small or smart, or they dared to wear something other than Wranglers. One pair of Howard Jones parachute pants and a rat tail would get you a Pepsi can thrown at your head. Some boys ducked and covered with us young ladies. Looking back, I was a member of what I'm now pretty sure were two tribes of 3 girls and a gay. In one group, the boy named each of us after one of Judy Garland's Witches of Oz. There was the wicked one and the dead to the world one. I, of course, was Glenda. To show me his devotion, this boy gave me an envelope filled with his fingernail clippings. Such flattery. I'd never felt so adored. In the other group, the boy was our designated driver after each of us girls had chugged a Bartles and James exotic berry wine cooler. We thanked him for his support by letting him sleep on the floor during our slumber parties. At my house, boys weren't allowed in my bedroom, but Papa took one look at this kid and waved him out of the living room and on up the stairs. I thought it was because the boy was so homely that Papa didn't think he stood a chance with me. Now I know my father must have known what he knew about Grandpapa. But Papa, unless he was directly asked, was too considerate to let on. Did I know these two boys were gay? Absolutely not. They never said they were. It never occurred to me to ask, and I honestly don't know if they are now because I don't do Facebook. But what I do know is that nobody bothered them in high school because they were shielded by us girls. And we girls could flirt and get tipsy without fear of having our reputations ruined. It was a wimp-wimp situation. We were all safe from regular boys. At Central High, on the eve of the last day of 10th grade, a regular boy and his lackeys went after a southern effeminate boy because, as far as I can recall, he had a funny name. They rolled that boy's house with quilted northern, blacked out every window with split Oreos, salted obscenities in the grass, and shaving creamed the cars. And the next day, they sold t-shirts commemorating the prank. A local business had customized and printed those teal and white t-shirts without question. The regular boys sold them out of cardboard boxes in the school cafeteria. No teacher stopped them, and as far as I know, all 868 of us 10th graders bought one. Me included, I'm ashamed to admit. But so did the victim. That kid was so tough-skinned and ahead of his time, he considered himself a celebrity. Rightly so. 30 years later, his name is one of the few I remember. When I returned to the South, I'm always unsettled when a man I assume is gay, because he has a face pulled tighter than a gift bow or starts every sentence with "girl, please," introduces me to his wife, or when a straight man qualifies a comment that could be taken the wrong way. For instance, on a Delta flight out of Atlanta, a good old boy in a trucker's cap that read "American by birth, but Southern by the grace of God" struck up a conversation with me by saying, "Now, I'm not gay or anything, but I like making jam." After 25 years in New York City, I still get a thrill when I meet a man who's out of the closet. Most gay men I meet here are out of the closet, so I live my life regularly delighted. My friend Martin was my gateway gay. He's 4 years younger, so I didn't know him at Central High, but after I left for college, he took my sister to a dance. There is a photo of them standing shoulder to shoulder in our front yard. He was so respectful, he never even tried to hold her hand. When Martin moved to Manhattan, we became friends. And like Heather Locklear in a Fabergé organic shampoo commercial, Martin introduced me to two of his gay men friends, and they introduced me to two of theirs. Through Martin, I met Bernard, and through Bernard, I met Carmine. In our 30s, Martin started a book club that was half gay men, half women. All the women except for me got pregnant and dropped out. When the last to leave, a woman who'd grown up in Manhattan, was debating whether to quit, she said to me, "I just don't want to spend 2 hours a month listening to a bunch of queens bitch about books." I said, "That is all I want to do." To me, a room full of gay men is like Narnia. It's a place I hoped was out there on the other side of a closet door full of talking lions that I always deep down suspected could talk. To be beckoned into such a world makes me feel incredibly special. Carmine's bachelor party was at Raoul's, an old haunt of an Italian restaurant on the Lower East Side. At the time, I had a Louise Brooks bob and still wore a Boy George red matte lip. I slipped into my highest heels and a chocolate brown Tory Burch mini dress with white piping. The dress was stiff and had a deep V-neck. Nobody there would be interested in my cleavage, but I jockeyed up my breasts like I was setting out Waterford crystal ashtrays. I made an effort. I knew I was never going to be Cher or Barbra Streisand, but I could be Karen Walker or Auntie Mame, a fabulous lady of a mature age who can hold her liquor and carry on a conversation. My friend Jason arrived and escorted me up a winding staircase to a private dining room. Hors d'oeuvres were passed by older professional male servers, the likes of which you'll find more commonly in the French Quarter. I was introduced to some kind of vodka that's not made from potatoes and thus doesn't get you fat. Guests mingled before a candlelit table for 12. There were architects, doctors, and lawyers. Men in publishing and TV. All were at the top of their games. I was the housewife, but it was my place card set next to Carmine's. At the far end of the room were a man and a woman whom nobody knew. When the man gave the first toast, he ended it by saying, "Now, Carmine, to make sure you really want to marry Bernard, this heterosexual couple is going to have sex for us." The collective gay gasp was strong enough to suck the tablecloth out from under the china. "Just kidding," said the best man. Throughout supper, the man played a keyboard and the woman sang every Broadway show tune related to marriage. There are a lot of such songs. She sang through cocktail hour and 2 choruses. Dessert was brought out by 2 waiters who weren't waiters. They were younger than our waiters. They were younger than all of us. They were gorgeous. They set down flourless cakes and, before anyone could take a bite, stripped nearly naked. There is a picture of me screaming with abandon with my hand on an ass cheek that is as chiseled and polished as Michelangelo's David. If Michelangelo was into Puerto Ricans. What happened after that, I'll keep a secret because I want to continue to be invited into rooms of men with nothing to hide.